Hey y'all, it's Melissa here at Twin Oaks Family Farm in rural Southeast Ohio, USA. Thanks for joining me at Twin Oaks Farm Poultry on YouTube. It's a Saturday show and tell and share on the farm, April 13th, 2024, and I'm so glad that you're here. I'm going to show you some of my favorite flowers, some of my favorite candy, and we're going to take a look at the meat bird flock that is currently in production here for us. It's starting off 2024 with our poultry production, a group of a little over 100 birds. Going to have 100 birds right after them, then take about a 15-day break and have 3 flocks of 425 each back to back, and we'll finish the year with a flock of 100 or so after that. That'll come in late fall. So we're gonna do videos on those meat chickens all year, keep you updated on how it's going for us raising the meat chickens, and show you the way that we do it so that hopefully if you want to raise meat chickens, you can take some of those same practices and scale them to what you're doing. But today's video, let's get right to it. Some flowers, some candy, and checking out some chickens, and tell you a couple of the YouTube channels that I'm watching that I like. And so let's get right to it. This time of year here in rural Southeast Ohio, USA, we don't have a whole lot of flowers coming up. In fact, we don't really consider ourselves frost-free until about Mother's Day, so sometime early May to mid-May. But we have bulb plants like tulips, daffodils, hyacinth. They come up pretty early on, like March, but I love this bed of creeping phlox. Do y'all have creeping phlox where you live? Do you even like creeping phlox? In this bed, it's on the north side of our home place, and it actually gets, more sun the further out away from the house you get. So it flowers and blooms from this side in toward the house. So it's not totally in bloom yet, but it's mostly emerald blue creeping phlox. I've got some white here, and there's one corresponding on the other end. The bed is planted kind of symmetrically, so it's kind of a retaining wall there that meets our driveway where we pull into like a carport garage. So we're trying to fill it with creeping phlox. And here where I live, so this is almost mid-April, creeping phlox is kind of popular, and I try to get additional plants like this time of year. And if I wait a little longer than this, I kind of miss the window because it will kind of sell out. But so we're going to actually put in another flat of emerald blue, so that would be about 12 small pots of it. I'm going to put it in where you see the gravel there, and trying to get another hot pink one or purpley one, like the magenta purple, to put in there. I'm having trouble keeping it right there for some reason. And then we've got some white, so I also have put in order for a flat of white and a pot of the pink to put in there. But really handy that actually my oldest son used to work for Witten Farm in rural Southeast Ohio, USA. I mentioned them in a previous video, and he still works for them part-time if they need him driving delivery truck on the weekend. But then our youngest son also is now working for them too, and gets to do, it's the coolest job for a 16-year-old farm kid, because he gets to do so many different kinds of tasks on the farm and learn so much. So anyway, that's really cool. But me knowing phlox sells out, and one of the things Witten specializes in, if you're ever in Southeast Ohio, USA, and the Witten farm market stands are open, they have farm market stand locations all over Southeast Ohio. You need to go to one if you're ever in our area. And if you're ever around Columbus, Ohio, you go to Smith Market, and that's a Witten location. W-I-T-T-E-N. So anyway, but me knowing that the flats of phlox will sell out once the flower stands and produce market stands open up, I put in a word to my youngest son, hey, if they're getting phlox in, I want some right away. I want 2 flats in a pot. So he's actually put in a request for it for me. So hoping I'll get to have it by next weekend maybe. But this phlox, it fills in really pretty here. So we put it here because this was just a flower bed that we want to fill with something that blooms and stays green and comes back. And so that this ground cover does that for us. But what I have found with creeping phlox is like there's no middle. You love it or you hate it. I've heard people say, especially about the blue, like it looks like the lavender is the plant puking up lavender guts. And so I guess if that's the image it brings to your mind, you're not going to like the plant. But I like it. I think it's really pretty. So we're trying to get this bed to fill in here. We do have a couple hydrangea plants there by the house that will green up and bloom in later. But want to show you too. We haven't mowed yet, and we're getting some dandelions, but I want to show you too, this is a way that you can make a border and can even make a retaining wall. These stones are just bags of Quikrete, and literally they can just be laid down with the wrapper on and wet down, saturated, and allowed to dry and set up, and then the paper will eventually, you know, peel itself off and you can help it along, but that'll make a block. Now you do sometimes get like cracking, like this piece here actually fell off of that. But anyway, it's kind of a unique, and we'll walk up here. I've got some dandelions to get out right there. Even though it's covered in rock and has this ground cover, we still have to weed this. But see, these have been here longer, so they really get looking neat over time. But I actually saw a sod waterway redone in a Quikrete bag down in the Piney Woods region of Texas. And I thought, what a neat idea. And so since then, we've repurposed that idea a couple places. One into this border around this rock bed, and another into a little raised bed behind the house. So that's the flowers. Let's look at some candy. Oh my goodness, y'all. Have you ever heard of Blue Monday candy bars? So I'll have to be disciplined here. A, not to eat the candy bar, and B, to talk quick because I love these, so I could get a little running off at the mouth on this. But Blue Monday candy bars are an American candy. They are made by, let me get into another place here, the Ruth Hunt Candy Company out of Mount Sterling, Kentucky. And fun little backstory on that, when my husband and I were first married 24 years ago, we just did like a camping trip for our honeymoon, and one of the things we did was go tour the Ruth Hunt Candy Company in Mount Sterling, Kentucky, and I believe now they have a Lexington, Kentucky location as well. But this candy, I think, started, well, I'll grab that later, and I wanted to move it anyway because there's actually one of the candy bars. This candy started in the 1930s, made by, I believe, a woman named Ruth Hunt, and this is a chocolate that is a bittersweet dark chocolate, and inside is called a pulled cream candy. And so this pulled cream candy is covered in this bittersweet dark chocolate, but you also can get other varieties now, like milk chocolate and mint, and there might even be a caramel one. So the ones that come in the blue boxes with blue on their wrappers are the traditional ones that are the bittersweet dark chocolate. There's like a green box, green print wrapper that's the mint, and like I said, I think there's milk chocolate for sure, and there may be one other variety. But these, I think they're delicious, but again, I don't think there's any middle. I think you're either going to love it or hate it, but it's cool. It's an American made candy, and it's an American made company. So this is a USA product out of Kentucky. You can look it up online. You can actually look up Ruth Hunt Candy Company. The Mount Sterling location in Kentucky is where the candy is made. There's a storefront there, but the storefront fronts the manufacturing site of the candies. And another couple awesome products from Ruth Hunt Candy Company is bourbon balls. So Ruth Hunt has their own signature label, bourbon balls, and hey y'all again, and they also make It's a little breezy. It's not super cold. I probably don't need this heavy a coat, but it's about 50 degrees, so a little breezy. But they also make, as I was saying, the bourbon balls. So Ruth Hunt makes their own signature label bourbon balls, and they make a Woodford Reserve bourbon ball. Excellent. So excellent. Okay, so we're gonna head out to the barn. I'll try to navigate the front door this time and get us in. What are y'all cooking this weekend? I just dropped 2 whole chickens in crock pots, and I flavored one with Cajun seasoning, and I flavored one with herbs de Provençal. And so it has like lavender and rosemary. Oh, sorry y'all. Sorry, we got very close up. That door was gonna bang. Okay, so we are gonna look at the meat chickens. Before we look at the meat chickens, couple of YouTube channels I'm loving, still loving, been loving, Farmer Always and Chimma's Chicken Coop. Y'all check them out. Farmer Always out of Canada, a cattle ranch, and really my impression over YouTube, really down-to-earth people and just doing their best to operate their ranch, and beautiful scenery in their videos, fun things, looks like a really fun family. So Farmer Always Canada, and the Chimma's Chicken Coop in Germany, and neat thing, live stream of actual chicken coop, of a person's chicken coop with their flock of, got some roosters, egg production hens. And then right now, Chimma's Chicken Coop just started incubating some chicken eggs in an incubator. So gonna like video and show us that process, and when the chicks are ready to hatch, then I think Chimma's gonna live stream that. So Chimma's Chicken Coop out of Germany, Farmer Always out of Canada. I'll try to put a link in the description and in the comments. And thanks for joining us here at Twin Oaks Farm Poultry. Please subscribe. We thought we were at 790 YouTube. Sometimes on our unofficial numbers, we'll see a little flux. So actually the last subscriber number I saw was 789. After I'd seen 790, so it'll dip, but then you write it out, it'll come back up. So anyway, please subscribe if you haven't. We'd love it if you'd like the video with a thumbs up and comment. So it's YouTube, doing the videos, it's a learning curve, but we're enjoying it, and we have some great viewers. So thank you. A lot of viewers really support the channel. Thank you. What can I say? Thank you so much. So let's take a look at the birds. This is why we're here. This is what Twin Oaks Farm Poultry is all about. Meat chickens, Cornish Rock Cross meat chickens. Nonetheless, these are the best meat chickens. So 50 degrees outdoors. We do have the 8 supplemental heat lamps on. If you are raising chickens, you might need to use heat lamps. If you're raising meat chickens, you're more likely to have to use heat lamps for them than for egg chickens. With egg chickens, once even when they're young, once they feather in well, they can stand a pretty good temperature range. So they would not need, egg production chickens would not necessarily need a heat lamp right now if they're feathered in. But these meat birds, they really want to be, at this age, we're going to consider them finished. Okay, they're, where are we at? They'll be 37 days old Tuesday, and I'm on a Saturday. So 37, 36, 35. They're 34 days old. They want to be about 70 degrees. So if we didn't have heat lamps and we didn't have any sunlight at all coming in, they would want, they would want to be warmer than 50 degrees. So they would be maybe a little chilly. Now you notice we're losing birds off of those heat lamps, and we're getting birds drifted down to where the sunlight is, because the sunlight is warm and they'll go to it. So actually, see, we're starting to get a little sunlight in this side of the building. So as the sun moves and we're getting more of this sunlight here as we get midday, we're gonna at least turn off these 2 heat lamps. We might get to turn off these heat lamps today. If it'll get up to about 60 degrees Fahrenheit and the sun's coming in, these birds will be good. We could turn lamps off. In 34 days of production, and you know, take into consideration the time of year and where I'm at, rural Southeast Ohio, USA started these birds March 11th, and we're out to April 13th. In that time frame, raising Cornish rock cross meat chickens, we've had the lights on almost the entire time. We've had a total of 3 days that we could go totally without heat lamps. So in general, if you're raising meat birds in a time of year when you have cool temperatures, you're probably going to need supplemental warmth. You're going to need heat lamps, okay? So anyway, that's what's going down with them. But what'd we say then? 34 days old. 112 are in this side. And this is the production pen that's considered finished pen. If they're on this side, on processing day, we say if they're living, they're leaving, okay? If they're living, they're leaving. So this is the pen where we say this is finished pen. This is the birds that are definitely going to go to processing, be slaughtered for poultry production. 112, okay? Meat birds in here. We have 4 meat birds in another area. You know what? I'm going to show you that. So over the wall, you're not going to get a good look at this because of where I'm at and where the light's coming in, but over the wall there was a group of 12 egg production pullets. Most of them are resting there. You can see 2 white birds furthest away here in this shot. Those are meat birds that have been put on this side. They either had injury or were runts. There was not a disease issue. They either had injury or were runts. And where the heat lamp is still on, you can see 2 white birds there. Those are meat birds. That's why the heat lamp is still on, because there's meat birds over here. There's one that was a runt. See this one walking? It was a runt. It's picked up a lot. Chances are, of the 4 over here, 2 or 3 will go to processing of the 4 meat birds over here. The egg birds we're keeping, they were hatched end of February. So they had all of March, they've had a couple weeks in April, and so we might as well say they're about, coming on 7 weeks old, the egg production birds, okay? So they're older than these meat birds, but we'll keep those egg production birds. But these meat birds, they're living on processing day, they're leaving. Now over here, this is an egg production pullet. She's just decided to live over here. She won't go to processing. She's an egg bird. Okay, why are we getting all this crazy in the barn? Let me back out. Why are we getting all the crazy in the barn? The wind's blowing, okay? The wind's blowing. The flock is reactive to it. And, that's the fine line you walk with exposing the flock to the elements. We want the sunlight, we want the fresh air, we want the good air movement, we want ventilation. Keep in mind, if your birds are healthy, they're going to be responsive, so you're going to see reaction, okay? So that's okay. That's okay. Actually, what is going on with that windiness being so strong is that I have the east and west doors both open, okay? So the east door is where we're getting the most sunlight right now. When we're done recording, I'll close the west door, and that will eliminate that windiness, all right? And see, it moved them all from that side of the pen to this side of the pen. So we'll actually, when I stop recording, I'll walk in there amongst them. They walk among us. I'll walk in there amongst them and have them spread back out, settle down. We'll assess where they're sitting, what they're using, if we need all the heat lamps. But anyway, so they have, and look at this. Well, I'll have to try to step in here. So we have these crates in here. These are livestock crates for poultry. These are. So they're supposed to be set in this way, or This is the bottom of them you're looking at there. Or if they're setting top in, we're supposed to have that lid shut. So we're probably going to wrap up on this. So we set this back in the wrong way. Last time we moved it, we set it in top in with the lid open. But anyway, when we load these birds, we'll set these crates down on their bottom, the bottom of the crate, and we can fit 18, not 18. I was looking at another number. We can fit 8 birds per crate. So 112 birds, we're thinking we'll need, what'd that take us to? About 14 crates. So anyway, so I guess, you know, they're practicing, but we actually load them in there carefully by hand and make sure that there's room for them, but 8's gonna fit. I don't have a weight on these birds, a WEIGHT weight on these birds. They're not as big as some flocks that finish, but they're okay. Oh, go ahead, bud, go ahead. He's a nice, good sized rooster. He's not gonna step in there on his own. So anyway, but wish they were all more just right like him, but that's okay. We're gonna have a nice finish, and all these birds they're reserved. They're all pre-sold, and the flock behind them is pretty much pre-sold. So anyway, if you want to raise chicken for yourself, you can do it. Cornish Shark Cross Meat chickens are the best. Look you up Ruth Hunt Candy Company on the internet. Get you some good Kentucky USA chocolate, and there is another Kentucky candy company called Rebecca Ruth Candy Company. So the two, I think Rebecca Ruth Candy is the name, and I think it's also from Kentucky and fairly historic, has a long history. So the two are not to be confused. Both have great candy, but the Blue Mondays and excellent bourbon balls that we talked about come from Ruth Hunt Candy Company. Look them up. Look up Farmer Always. Look up Chimma's Chicken Coop. Here's the white leghorn. 11 days older than a meat bird. Here's the meat bird. Isn't that something? How about that? How about that? Nice looking birds. So we're pleased with this flock. Beginning of the year, they have to fight cold weather in the beginning, and it affects them. You see the effects of that out at the end in smaller birds than we're going to have in flocks of the same age later in the year. And it also affects them in mortality. And so the birds that we have lost out of this flock, and I believe now we've lost, 10. We'll see. Yeah, maybe just 10. They've been heart failure. And y'all